There's a voice inside you that's been lying, and it's not malicious. It's protective. It keeps replaying old fears, rehearsing the worst case, and convincing you to stay safe. The truth is simple and brutal. Your mind is not your friend when it's comfortable, and until you meet that truth, nothing you do will move you forward. There is a quiet bureaucracy inside your skull and an office of survival that meets in the dark and writes memos in the currency of fear. It is not cruel. It is not even clever. It is conservative. It exists to keep you alive long enough to reproduce and pass on genes. That wiring served our ancestors well when wolves hunted and famine was ordinary. But the world has changed. Our wiring has not. The same system that once saved you from immediate danger will now conspire to keep you small, comfortable, and predictable, and you will call its counsel wisdom. Every time you feel a tug toward a new life, your brain does what it is trained to do. It asks a question designed to keep you safe. What could go wrong? What will others think? Is this really necessary? Those questions are not neutral. They are fences disguised as logic. And because the mind values the known, the measurable thermostat of routine, it will marshal reasons to stay inside the fence. It is patient. It does not demand obedience in dramatic decrees. It offers a million small plausible arguments for delay. Not now, later, better, to wait. The arguments feel reasonable because they are knitted from the same fabric that once kept you alive. We moderns mistake the persistence of those arguments for the voice of reason. We hand them authority. I've thought this through, we say, and we believe it. But thought in the mind's current economy is often a defense mechanism. It is rehearsed caution dressed up as prudent planning. The more important the choice, the more the mind will offer plausible paralysis. It is both clever and cowardly. Clever because it can produce seemingly rational reasons to stay still. Cowardly because the reasons thin when held up to honest light. This conservatism is voiced through habits. Habits are the languages of the brain. They are automatisms that conserve energy. Energy conservation is the brain's default. Deep work is costly, change is costly. So the mind prefers small rituals that minimize expenditure while keeping identity intact. The coffee you always drink, the route you always take, the conversation you never start. Each ritual is a vote for the status quo. Each vote compounds into a geometry you call my life. And because the brain prefers predictable pain to uncertain growth, it will choose the painful familiarity of an underwhelming job over the unknown of meaningful risk. It will choose the safety of small social approval over the terrifying freedom of honest difference. It will choose the tiny pleasures of distraction over the slow burn of skill. The psychology here is subtle. Safety feels better in the short run, even if it bankrupts you in the long run. The mind's horizon is short. Your destiny is not. We therefore must separate the voice of the brain from the voice of wisdom. The brain's voice is loud when it smells threat. Wisdom is quieter and lonelier. The brain will scream danger at the threshold of transformation. Wisdom will say this is necessary. You can learn to hear both and choose. But the first step is recognizing that the immediate resistance you experience is not truth. It is a survival reflex. Practically, this recognition changes everything. When you feel the first surge of resistance toward a meaningful action, be it telling someone the truth, starting a project, ending a relationship, or learning a hard skill, do not accept the argument at face value. Give the brain its due. Note the fear, validate it, but do not obey it. Create a short ritual that acknowledges the brain's protest and then moves through it. For example, name the fear aloud. It removes its invisibility. Then commit to a 10-minute action that pulls you forward. Action short-circuits rhetoric. Over time, this ritual trains the brain that not all novel choices equal catastrophe. There is also a moral clarity here. The mind's conservatism masquerades as prudence. But prudence is not the same as avoidance. A prudent person weighs risk and still acts when the soul requires it. The person who lets fear always have the last word lives a life of small losses, daily and quiet. The moral decision is to reserve the right to disappoint the brain for the sake of the future self you owe. There is a loyalty involved in growth, loyalty to a version of you that does not yet exist but will thank you for refusing the brain's timorous counsel. We must also attend to environments because the brain is reactive to context. If your environment signals low risk and low expectation, your brain will gladly conform. If your environment signals intensity and concentrated attention, your brain will adapt eventually. Change your context before you change your willpower. Remove the easy, introduce friction for the comfortable, and design scaffolding for courage. Practical things matter. Put the phone in another room, pre-commit to work blocks. Tell one person about your new plan so accountability can outvote instinct. The brain does not like novelty, but it will accept it if novelty is clothed in ritual. Finally, remember the smallness of the brain's victory. Its conservatism can keep you safe, but it cannot give you meaning. Safety alone is a sterile garden. The deep human trajectory, growth, love, challenge, craft requires that we choose what is meaningful over what is merely safe. This is not reckless. It is a reorientation of value. When you begin to privilege that value, the brain's conservatism becomes an instrument you can work with rather than the ruler that defines you. So when the old cautious voice rises, listen to it as you would a careful friend when with gratitude for its protection, but without yielding authorship of your life. You were built to survive, yes, but you were also built to stretch, to create, to risk the new. The mind's conservatism must be understood, honored, and finally, courageously outvoted. You're not failing because you're weak. You're not stuck because life is unfair. You're stuck because your mind is playing a game you don't even realize you're participating in. And until you see the truth buried beneath your habits, emotions, and hidden fears, you will continue living the same day over and over again. Today, let's expose the truth your mind has been hiding from you. Your biggest battle has never been with the world. It has always been with the unrecognized chaos inside your own mind. You think you're struggling with circumstances, with people, with failures from your past, go on, but what you're really fighting are the parts of your mind that you've allowed to operate on autopilot. These silent programs shape your reactions, dictate your habits, and make you believe that you're making conscious choices when, in reality, the majority of your life has been lived unconsciously. And this is why you keep returning to the same patterns, the same emotions, the same excuses. Your mind protects you, yes, but it also traps you. It convinces you that the familiar is safe. Even when the familiar is destroying you, it whispers, stay where you are. Don't change. Don't risk. Don't step forward. On the surface, you call it overthinking, fear, or lack of motivation. But underneath, it's a deeper psychological truth. Your mind has built a version of you that is optimized for survival, not growth. And as long as you obey that version of yourself, you will never move forward. Every time an opportunity appears, that old self pulls you back into comfort. Every time you try to build a new habit, the old patterns tighten around you like chains. Every time you imagine a better future, your subconscious reminds you of who you were, not who you could become. And the worst part? You believe it. You believe the voice that says you're not capable. You believe the fear disguised as logic. You believe the hesitation disguised as caution. The truth is harsh but liberating. You are not stuck because life is unkind. You are stuck because your mind is unexamined. You are living by thoughts that don't belong to the person you want to become. And until you confront this invisible war, you will continue to lose a battle you don't even realize you're fighting. Today is the day you break that unconscious cycle. Your mind is a creature of repetition. It clings to what it knows, even if what it knows is painful, limiting, or destructive. You may wonder why you keep falling into the same mistakes, the same relationships, the same disappointments. It's not because you're doomed to repeat them. It's because your mind is loyal to its patterns, not your potential. The brain is designed to reduce uncertainty. So it builds shortcuts, habits, emotional responses. It creates a predictable loop. That loop becomes your identity, and with enough repetition, you start to believe, this is just who I am. But that belief is the greatest lie your mind ever tells you. Because your identity is not fixed, it is conditioned. Think about it. If you've rehearsed insecurity for years, how could confidence suddenly appear? If you've practiced avoidance, why would discipline magically emerge? If you've fed your mind fear, why would courage become your instinct? You are not broken. You are simply patterned, and those patterns push you back into your old self anytime you attempt to rise above. When you try to take action, it feels uncomfortable. Not because the action is wrong, but because your old patterns feel threatened. The moment you decide to wake up early, procrastination pulls you back. The moment you try to build something meaningful, Distraction takes over. The moment you step toward growth, your mind floods you with reasons to turn around. Patterns defend themselves. But here's the truth that changes everything. A pattern only has power when you run it unconsciously. The moment you become aware, truly aware, the pattern loses its authority. Awareness breaks the autopilot. Awareness interrupts the loop. Awareness gives you the choice you've never had before. This is why you must examine your mind. Because once you understand the pattern, you no longer obey. Most people believe they're being rational. They think they're making logical decisions. But so often what you call logic is actually fear wearing a convincing mask. Your mind has mastered the art of making fear sound intelligent. It gives you well-constructed excuses. It's not the right time. You're not ready yet. What if you fail? What will people think? These aren't logical barriers. They are emotional barriers dressed as reason. Why does your mind do this? Because fear is easier to live with than responsibility. If fear stops you, then you don't have to take the risk. You don't have to face the unknown. You don't have to challenge the identity your mind has built. But if you see through the disguise, then you're forced to confront a heavy truth. That you've allowed fear to dictate the direction of your life. Fear protects you, but not always in the way you need. Sometimes it protects the old version of you, the one that feels safe in limitation. And every time you obey it, you reinforce the belief that your fear is wiser than your courage. But ask yourself, when has fear ever taken you somewhere meaningful? When has fear ever created progress? When has fear ever built the life you imagined? Fear may feel convincing, but it is not truth. It is a memory of pain projected into the future. And the moment you recognize that, you reclaim your power to move forward. You think you're making choices as the person you are now, but often you're responding from old wounds. Old fears, old narratives that no longer belong to your present life. This is why certain situations trigger you. This is why certain opportunities intimidate you. This is why certain habits feel impossible to break. It's not because you can't grow. It's because your past self is still running the script. Your future cannot be built by a self that no longer fits the life you want. At some point, you must outgrow the identity that kept you alive but now keeps you limited. This is uncomfortable, yes. It feels like stepping into a new body, a new world, a new way of thinking. But transformation always demands identity death. You cannot carry the old you into the future you want. You feel a pull, a deeper calling toward a higher version of yourself. But notice what happens every time you move toward it. Resistance, exhaustion, confusion, emotional heaviness. This is not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's the clearest sign you're finally touching something true. Your soul wants expansion. Your mind wants preservation. These two forces collide every time you try to grow. Growth feels painful because the mind must surrender control. Progress feels uncomfortable because your inner world is rearranging itself. That discomfort is not a warning. It is evidence that something inside you is awakening. The greatest transformations are born from friction. You cannot transcend the limitations of your mind without experiencing the weight of them first. You become unstoppable not when life becomes easier, not when motivation appears, not when circumstances align, but when you stop believing the illusions your mind creates, the illusion that you're not capable, the illusion that you must wait for the perfect moment, the illusion that your past determines your future, the illusion that fear is wisdom. When you see through those illusions, the world opens. You realize the door was never locked. You realize you were never stuck. You realize you were only asleep, living inside a mental dream constructed by fear, repetition, and outdated identity. Awakening isn't dramatic. It's simple. It begins the moment you say, "I will no longer let my mind make my world small." That single decision is where your new life begins.